Okay, and recording. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Pearlman coming to you from Paramount Chiropractic and Wellness in Richardson, Texas. And for those of you that know me, know that I make videos like this where I'll be talking to you. Hopefully, we can make this one not incredibly long, but in more of a podcast form rather than me just putting some words up on a screen or adjusting someone. Let's talk a little bit about things that have been on my mind that I think might be on your mind too. And one of the things that comes up a lot, especially with people that are very well informed about healthcare, about consumership, sort of in the alternative world or elective, if you will, procedures and providers that are out there, i.e., chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, nutritionists, dietitians. These are things that aren't really paid for first line, kind of like, hey, you went to the doctor to get a checkup to get lab work, you needed a refill on your prescription, where let's just assume that insurance is reimbursing for that. They certainly don't just jump out of their shoes and reimburse for all the things I just mentioned. And so a lot of times what ends up happening, even though take this as you may, with a grain of salt, that some people think chiropractic doesn't have enough research behind it or it's not evidence based, which is ridiculous because it is. What's interesting is the more you, when I say chiropractic is, it depends what you're referring to: back pain, neck pain, joint pain, all sorts of joint pain, muscle, spindle, EMG, electromyography, readings, and what it looks like when it comes to someone who has a tight muscle, and whether or not you're then doing nerve conduction studies. Are you looking at the brain MRI? Excuse me, the MRI of the brain and certain parts of the areas of the brain that light up when excitable, so to speak, based on input to the body via chiropractic adjustment. So there's just different realms of research. But what's interesting is I looked at this guy podcast earlier this morning. I believe it's called Chiropractic Science. And I actually wish there was more viewership of his podcast on YouTube. There's a lot of us out there like that, right? We make content and we think maybe there should be more eyes on us or them. Personally, I think there should be more eyes on that than me. And the reason I'm saying this is because he had a very interesting podcast this morning. This is actually from a couple of years ago, where he was interviewing the person who was a chiropractor, who had a background in physics, who became a PhD and does a lot of research, conducts a lot of research. And one of the things they worked on early in his career for research was temporomandibular disorder, TMD, or also known as TMJ. And they wanted to see how this dysfunction and or pain would respond to chiropractic treatment, both manual type of massage or manipulative effects, along also with the what they call click click, the activator technique, where it's like a little clicker that hits the bone and stimulates the joint. And so what was interesting was they looked at this research and it was pretty much inconclusive. And then he met a man named Wally Schaefer. And one of the reasons that he met this man, or he was looking for, or somehow they bumped into each other, I forgot the exact story, so I'm not trying to retell it. I'm just trying to say that there's an association with this researcher and then a chiropractor named Wally Schaefer. He said, Wally Schaefer says, I'm really good at, treating TMJ. What do you mean? Like, what do you do? He says, I can't really explain it. They just, my patients come in and they get better. So they ended up doing multiple research studies, and this is early back as 2013, I believe. And what they did was they were able to conclude with his research, based off the candidates that came in for TMD, that like a great percentage got better, and they were able to publish research that pretty much, in summary, says temporal mandibular disorder or pain associated with objective ways to measure how much can someone open their jaw, and when they would elicit pain, and then subjectively they'd get better, but also objectively because they were measuring the amount that the jaw would open and things of that nature. Maybe even before and after x-rays. Actually, I can't quote on that. Please don't take the last part out. Scratch the last part of x-rays. Point is, they were able to say conclusively that it showed that it helped. But what's also more interesting is that if you look at that, it says, more research is needed. And if you look at a lot of research in general, a lot of the conclusion is more research is needed. And so there's always this push, in the scientific community, especially when people really want to see peer-reviewed, evidence-guided, gold standard, top of the pyramid, research studies, it becomes sort of this cloudy thing of, in the words of the person who's being interviewed, not Wally Schaefer, he said it's really inconclusive. It can be frustrating, and as long as you're okay with that, whatever, to be in that space, you might find some harmony in knowing that you're never really going to get exactly the answer you want. But the way that I took it, because I'm always trying to read between the lines and I don't like taking things sometimes at face value, it's like not a good enough answer for me. I'm like that philosopher, why, why? And so what I want to know with this research is, how come Wally Schaefer was having such great success, but before that, other people weren't? And let me give it to you in my terms, and then we'll kind of close out this video. I truly believe in the world of practitioners, providers, holistic, caregivers, if you will, that we are as good as our skill is to the person that's in front of us at a given moment in time. How good you are as a practitioner and adaptable you are to the person in front of you at a moment in time matters more than saying activator works or it doesn't. Saying chiropractic for lower back pain works or it doesn't. Will your herniated disc get better with a y-axis pull from the neck, or will it get better from laying on your side and getting the practitioner to specifically try to manipulate L4-5 for your lumbar disc? If you begin to think about it like that, in that topical level of, well, chiropractic only works for lower back pain because, I read, 6 peer-reviewed articles, whatever, these meta-analysis just show groups of people that constantly had good outcomes with chiropractic. It's almost like really saying, from a chiropractor, what does that even mean? We have to subcategorize the age, the pain scale, the presentation. Was it from a disc? Was it from arthritis? I'm not even going to continue to go down the road. I hope you understand. When it comes to TMD, kind of the same type of thing. But what's interesting is you can put a group of patients with a particular provider and probably begin to even subcategorize and break down the research even more and see why someone was successful. And oftentimes you can point to and say, wow, that provider was really good at their job. And that's kind of the key, and why I plead to everyone, always go to your recommended chiropractor. Always go with a recommendation that was from somebody. Give everything time so you build rapport and trust with both provider to patient, patient to provider. And again, seeking and understanding that because some research paper said something isn't necessarily conclusive. Oftentimes, almost all the time, it's not conclusive. Oh, I just hit my microphone. It's really about understanding the context behind what makes that person successful and what made that patient successful. And everything leading up to that statement and understanding that and finding that and feeling that is how to have a good outcome and how to hopefully objectively quantify that over time, which may never be the case. It may never objectively be the case because we're all so subjectively different. That is all I have to say about that. Now, I realize, because I'm getting prompts on my phone left and right here, that I may have made a commitment to a meeting that I may or may not be at right now. And, that stuff weighs on me. I try to, always be a man of my word, always be where I say I'm going to be. But there's a chance that I just couldn't make it this morning. I'm going to get going here in about 15 minutes, and it's going to be a busy day. But anyways, guys, please reach out, leave a comment, subscribe, share with someone who needs to hear this. And until next time, this is Dr. Pearlman.